Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Easy English Podcast. I'm Hannah, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Alex. How are you today, Alex?
Hi, Hannah. I'm doing great, thank you. And a big warm welcome to all of our lowly listeners around the world. We have a really fun everyday story for you today.
That's right. Today's episode is perfect for our A2 level learners. We are going to listen to a story about a young man named Leo. Leo is a bit distracted, which means he is not paying attention to what is happening around him. Have you ever been distracted, Alex?
Oh, absolutely. Almost every day. Usually it's because I am looking at my smartphone. Smartphones are amazing, but they can easily take our attention away from the real world. In our story, this is exactly what happens to Leo. He is looking at his phone and he makes a classic mistake. He boards the wrong bus.
Yes, to board is a great verb. It just means to get on a bus, a train, or an airplane. For example, the passengers are ready to board the plane. So, Leo boards the wrong bus, and things go a bit wrong from there. But don't worry, it's a helpful story because we will learn how to ask for directions politely.
Exactly. This is a very useful skill. If you get lost in an English-speaking city, you need to know how to ask for help in a polite way. So let's start with the first part of our story. Hannah, can you set the scene for us?
I would love to. Let's meet Leo. Leo is 24 years old and he lives in a busy city. It is a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Leo is standing at a bus stop near his university. He wants to go to the city center to meet his friend for coffee. He is holding his umbrella in one hand and his phone in the other hand. He is reading a very interesting article about space travel on his phone.
Space travel. No wonder he is distracted. That sounds much more exciting than a rainy Tuesday. So he is reading his article and he hears a bus approaching. The word approaching means coming closer. He hears the bus coming closer to the bus stop.
Yes, he hears the loud engine. He looks up for a split second, which means a very short moment, just a tiny part of a second. He sees a big red bus. He thinks, this must be my bus, the number 12. He doesn't look at the number on the front of the bus. He just steps forward, steps onto the bus, and taps his travel card on the reader. Beep! He is on board.
Oh no, Leo! He didn't double-check the number. To double-check means to check something a second time to be absolutely sure. It's always a good idea to double-check the bus number, especially when it's raining and you want to get to a warm cafe quickly.
Exactly, but Leo didn't double-check. He walks to the back of the bus and finds a comfortable seat next to the window. He puts his wet umbrella on the floor and immediately looks back down at his phone. He is completely lost in his reading again. He has no idea that this is actually the number 22 bus, not the number 12.
Oh dear, the number 22. That is a big difference. Where does the number 22 bus go, Hannah?
Well, the number 12 bus goes straight to the city center, past the big library and the beautiful park. But the number 22 bus goes in the opposite direction. It goes towards the quiet suburbs and the industrial area, far away from the city center.
That is a major mistake. The opposite direction means the completely different way. If the city center is north, Leo is traveling south. And because he is so distracted by his phone, he doesn't look out the window. He doesn't notice that the buildings are getting smaller and there are fewer people on the streets.
Yes, to notice means to see or become aware of something. Leo doesn't notice anything. 10 minutes pass, then 15 minutes. The bus stops a few times to let other passengers get off. Finally, Leo finishes his article. He locks his phone and looks out the window. He expects to see the big shops and the bustling streets of the city center, but instead, he sees empty green fields and a quiet residential street.
Wow, that must be a very shocking moment. Imagine looking up and expecting a busy city, but seeing nothing but grass and small houses. Leo must feel very confused. Confused is when you don't understand what is happening or where you are. His heart starts to beat a little faster.
Yes, he is definitely confused. He looks at the screen inside the bus that shows the name of the next stop. The screen says Oak Gardens. Leo has never heard of Oak Gardens. He thinks, wait, where is the city center? Did I miss my stop?
This is a classic panic moment. Panic is when you suddenly feel very worried or afraid. He stands up quickly. He looks around the bus. There are only 3 other passengers on the bus now. It is very quiet. The bus is moving fast, going further and further away from where he wants to be.
Oh, absolutely. The word panic is perfect here. When you panic, you can't think clearly. Leo's hands start to sweat, and he thinks, what should I do? Should I jump off the bus right now? But the bus is moving too fast. He looks out the window again. The scenery is completely unfamiliar to him. Unfamiliar is a great word for our listeners. It is the opposite of familiar. It means you do not know it. You have never seen it before, and it feels strange to you.
Exactly. If your own neighborhood is familiar, then a new city or a quiet country road is unfamiliar. For Leo, these quiet streets with big trees and no shops are completely unfamiliar. He realizes he has made a huge mistake. He realizes he is on the wrong bus. To realize means to suddenly understand the fact or a situation. He says to himself, oh no, I got on the 22 instead of the 12.
By the way, if you are enjoying Leo's story today, taking a second to subscribe or like this episode really helps us reach more English learners around the world.
It really does. And please leave your questions in the comments, as we love reading and answering them. Anyway, back to Leo on the bus.
Yes, that moment of realization is always so painful. He missed his intended stop. The intended stop means the stop he planned to get off at, the one near his favorite cafe. He missed it by miles. Now he starts to feel very anxious. Anxious is another way to say very worried or nervous about what will happen next. His mind is full of questions. How do I get back? How much will a taxi cost? Will I be late for my meeting with my friend?
We have all been there, Hannah. That anxious feeling in your stomach is the worst. When you're lost in a new place, or even in your own city but in a strange area, it is very easy to feel helpless. Helpless means you feel like you cannot solve the problem by yourself. But Leo decides he must do something. He cannot just sit there and ride the bus to the end of the line, wherever that is.
That is true. The end of the line means the very last stop of the bus route. Leo definitely does not want to go there, so he decides to look around the bus for help. As we said, there are only 3 other passengers. One is a young teenager listening to music with headphones. Another is an elderly man who is asleep. And the 3rd passenger is a friendly-looking woman reading a book. Who do you think Leo should talk to, Alex?
Well, the teenager with headphones might not hear him or might be busy. The sleeping man, well, it is never polite to wake someone up unless it is an emergency, so the woman reading a book seems like the best choice. She looks friendly, and she is awake. Leo decides to approach her. To approach means to walk closer to someone or something.
Yes, he slowly walks down the aisle of the moving bus. He holds on to the metal pole so he doesn't fall. He stands near the woman's seat. He feels a bit embarrassed. Embarrassed is when you feel shy or uncomfortable because you made a mistake and you think other people might judge you. He thinks, she is going to think I am silly for getting on the wrong bus.
That is a very normal feeling, Hannah. People often feel embarrassed to ask for help because they don't want to look foolish. But in reality, most people are very happy to help. It makes them feel good. So Leo takes a deep breath to calm his anxiety and says, "Excuse me, sorry to bother you." This is a very polite way to start a conversation with a stranger, isn't it?
It is perfect. Excuse me, sorry to bother you is a classic English phrase. We use to bother to mean disturb or interrupt. It shows that you respect the other person's time and space. The woman looks up from her book. She smiles warmly and says, "Oh, hello. No problem at all. How can I help you?" Her warm response immediately makes Leo feel a little less anxious.
That warm response is like a breath of fresh air. Leo explains the situation. He says, I think I am a bit lost. I wanted to go to the city center, but I think I boarded the wrong bus. Let's look at the word boarded. We mentioned this earlier. To board a bus, train, or plane means to get on it. Leo admits he boarded the wrong one.
And the woman's reaction is wonderful. She laughs a gentle, friendly laugh and says, "Oh, don't worry about it. This bus goes all the way to the countryside. It is the number 42, not the 24. They look very similar, and they stop at the same platform at the main station. It happens to people all the time." This is so comforting for Leo to hear. She uses the phrase, "Don't worry about it." This is a common way to tell someone that everything is okay, and there is no need to feel bad or stressed.
Yes, don't worry about it is an excellent phrase for daily life. When someone says sorry for a small mistake, you can just say, don't worry about it. It is very polite and friendly. The woman, whose name we later find out is Sarah, explains to Leo where they actually are. She says, right now, we are about 20 minutes outside of the city center. We are heading north. Heading is a great word here. To head somewhere means to travel or move in a specific direction. For example, I am heading home, or we are heading to the supermarket. In Leo's case, the bus is heading north away from his school.
Exactly. He is heading north, but he needs to go back south to the city center. Leo asks her, "Oh dear, how can I get back? Do I need to stay on this bus until the end of the line, or should I get off now?" This is a very logical question. Sometimes it is easier to just stay on the bus if it turns around and goes back. But Sarah has a better plan. She says, "No, don't wait until the end of the line. That will take another 30 minutes. The best thing to do is to get off at the very next stop."
The very next stop. Adding the word very before next emphasizes that it is the immediate next one. It means the absolute next stop without waiting any longer. Sarah explains that across the street from the next stop, there is another bus shelter. She says, at that stop across the road, you can take the number 42 going in the opposite direction. It will take you straight back to the city center. Opposite direction is a useful term. It means the completely other way. If north is one way, south is the opposite direction.
That is so convenient, but Leo is still a little nervous. He asks, "Does that bus run often? I don't want to wait in the cold for a long time." When we ask if a bus runs often, we mean does it operate or travel frequently on that route. For example, you can ask, "How often does the train run?" Or, "The buses don't run on Sundays." It is a very natural way to talk about public transportation schedules.
Right. We don't usually say, does the bus walk often? Or does the bus go often? We say, does it run? Sarah tells him, yes, it runs every 15 minutes. You won't have to wait long at all. In fact, if you get off with me at the next stop, I can show you exactly where to cross the street safely. This is incredibly kind of her. She is not just giving him directions, she is actually guiding him.
She is a real lifesaver. A lifesaver is an informal English expression we use for someone who helps us out of a very difficult or annoying situation. For example, if you forget your wallet and your friend pays for your lunch, you can say, "Thanks, you are a lifesaver." Sarah is definitely a lifesaver for Leo today. Leo feels a huge wave of relief. Relief is that warm, happy feeling you get when your worry or pain goes away. His shoulders drop and he smiles for the first time in 30 minutes.
I can imagine that feeling of relief. It is like a heavy weight is lifted from his shoulders. He says to Sarah, "Thank you so much. You are incredibly kind. I was really starting to panic." Here, Leo uses the word panic. To panic means to suddenly feel so worried or frightened that you cannot think clearly or act sensibly. We often use it as a verb, like, don't panic when someone is getting stressed. Leo was starting to panic, but Sarah's kindness stopped that immediately.
Yes, and then Sarah gives him one more great piece of advice. She says,
You know, for the future, you should download the local transit app on your phone. It shows you exactly where the buses are in real time, so you always know if you are on the right one. In real time means that the information is updated instantly, at the exact moment things are happening. So if the bus is delayed by 2 minutes, the app shows it immediately.
That is a brilliant tip. Most cities have these transit apps now, and they make traveling so much easier, especially for learners or tourists who are not familiar with the area. Leo nods and says, "That is a wonderful idea. I will download it right now while we wait for the stop." Just then, the bus starts to slow down. The electronic voice inside the bus announces, "Next stop, Green Valley Lane."
Hannah stands up and presses the red stop button on the pole. She says, "This is us. Let's get off here." Leo follows her down the steps and out of the bus doors. As they step onto the pavement, the cool, fresh countryside air hits Leo's face. It is beautiful here, actually, with green fields and big trees. Even though he made a mistake, he gets to see a part of the area he has never seen before.
That is the silver lining, Hannah. A silver lining is a comforting or hopeful aspect of an otherwise bad situation. We have the common English proverb, "Every cloud has a silver lining." This means that even in a bad situation, like getting lost, there is always something good if you look for it. For Leo, the silver lining is seeing this lovely countryside and meeting a very kind person.
I love that proverb. It is so true and positive. Sarah points across the quiet country road to a small wooden bus shelter. She says, "Look, there is the stop for the bus going back to the city. You just need to cross here at the pedestrian crossing. Press the button, wait for the green light, and walk across." A pedestrian crossing is the special place on the road where cars must stop so that people walking can cross safely. In American English, people often call it a crosswalk.
Yes, crosswalk or pedestrian crossing. Leo looks at the crossing and then at the wooden shelter. He feels completely safe and confident now. He knows exactly what to do. He turns to Sarah and says, "Thank you again, Sarah. You really saved my day." This is another lovely phrase. To save someone's day means to make a bad day become a good one by doing something helpful.
Yes, "you saved my day" is such a warm and friendly way to thank someone who helped you out of a difficult situation. It shows deep gratitude. Sarah smiles warmly and says, "Oh, you are very welcome, Leo. It was a pleasure meeting you. We all get lost sometimes, so do not worry about it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and enjoy your coffee in the city center." Leo smiles, waves goodbye, and says, "Thank you. Have a great day too."
And with that, Sarah walks off down a leafy path towards her home, and Leo carefully uses the pedestrian crossing to get to the other side of the road. He walks into the small wooden bus shelter and sits down on the bench. He feels a wave of relief. A wave of relief is a sudden, strong feeling of being relaxed after a period of worry or fear.
Exactly. He was so stressed just 20 minutes ago, but now, thanks to Sarah's clear directions and kindness, he is completely relaxed. He opens his phone and immediately downloads the local transit app just like Sarah suggested. As he waits, he looks at the app. It is amazing. He can see a little digital map with a small blue bus icon moving along the road in real time. The app says his bus back to the city center, bus 12, will arrive in exactly 4 minutes.
Technology is so useful for language learners and travelers. While he waits, Leo looks around at the green fields. He takes a deep breath of the fresh country air. He thinks to himself, "This was actually a very nice adventure. I practiced my English, I met a lovely local person, and I saw a beautiful new place." That really is the ultimate silver lining.
It certainly is, and right on time, just as the app promised, the big red bus 12 rolls down the road and stops right in front of the shelter. The doors hiss open. Leo steps inside, and this time, he is not looking at his phone. He looks directly at the driver.
He learned his lesson. No more distractions. What does he say to the driver, Hannah?
He smiles and asks, "Hello, good afternoon. Is this bus going to the city center?" The driver nods and says, "Yes, mate, straight to the central station." Leo pays for his ticket,
tap with his card, and takes a seat right near the front. He looks out the window, watching the green fields slowly turn back into busy city streets. In about 15 minutes, the bus stops at the central square, and Leo steps off, right where he wanted to be in the first place.
What a fantastic ending to Leo's little journey. He finally made it to the city center, and he has a great story to tell his friends over that hot cup of coffee.
He really does. And we learned so many great natural English phrases from his story today. Let us do a quick review of some of the key vocabulary and expressions we covered, so our listeners can practice them too. First, we had to board, which means to get onto a bus, train, or airplane. For example, please have your tickets ready before you board the train.
Next, we talked about being distracted. When you aren't distracted, you are not paying attention to what is happening around you because you are thinking about or looking at something else. An example sentence: I was so distracted by the beautiful sunset that I walked past my house.
Then we use the expression to miss your stop, which means to stay on a bus or train past the place where you wanted to get off. For example, I fell asleep on the metro and missed my stop, so I was late for work.
We also learned the polite question, excuse me, is this seat free? Or is this seat taken? This is a perfect polite way to ask someone if you can sit next to them on public transport. You can say, excuse me, is anyone sitting here?
And we had the great phrase, to get off track, which means to go in the wrong direction or to lose focus. For example, we were talking about our weekend plans, but we got off track and started discussing our favorite movies.
We also had in real time, meaning instantly updated. For example, the map shows the location of the delivery driver in real time.
We talked about the silver lining, which is the good side of a bad situation. For example, losing my job was difficult, but the silver lining was that I finally had time to write my book.
And finally, to save someone's day, which means to help someone and turn a bad day into a good one. For example, I forgot my wallet, but my friend lent me some money and saved my day.
These are all such incredibly useful everyday words and expressions. I highly recommend that our listeners try to write their own sentences using at least 2 or 3 of these phrases today. It is the absolute best way to remember them.
That is a wonderful idea, Hannah. Practice makes perfect, as we always say. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Easy English Podcast. Thank you so much for listening and practicing with us today. Keep speaking, keep listening, and don't worry if you get distracted and take the wrong bus sometimes. It might just be the start of a great new adventure. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and goodbye.